So good morning everyone. We are from group 30. So we are going to present our topic. Equity looks to the intent and substance rather than form. So I would like to introduce my member. So first one is Ahmad Jafri and Munil, Ari, Intan, Yasmin, and Amirul Hizwan. So what is the maxim of equity? So I will give the definition of maxim and also equity. So for the maxim is a collection of the legal truisms which are usually applied by judges and lawyers. So most of the states have listed the maxim which in the statute, which listed in their statute. So according to Courtney, it reveals that the maxim has revealed the historical development of rules and procedures and guide the application of the rules at the present time and in the future. On the other hand, equity is a body of rules which was administered and formulated before 1873 by the Court of Chancery, which supplement the rules and procedures of the common law. So according to McGarry and Becker, equity is not a complete system, but there are general principles. So why equity is important? Because it replenishes the common law and to refrain from any unjust result within trust law. So Court of Chancery have took the responsibility for the administration of body of law known as equity, in which the law of trust has been a matter of reference as the most important question of the court. So notwithstanding, equity and trust have advanced outstandingly since their creation, but still they maintain the defining feature which separate from the common law.
Okay, now, just before this, my learned brother, Mr. Dominic, has discussed about what is equity, and now we discuss about the one of the type of maxim, which is equity look rather than form, look to intent rather than form. The common principle of English that the court will seek to look to any article and provide the effect to the substance of any transaction rather than merely to its surface appearance. Equity is more concerned with the parties' intention than whether they have properly complied with the form of the document required by law. It is used in the context of property transaction where court have held that, for example, that an intention to create a mortgage security will suffice or is sufficient for its enforcement in equity.
Okay, next, how the maxim is applied in the case of Johor Coastal Development Sdn Bhd. Again, Coastal Sdn Bhd is the respondent entered into two agreements to purchase land from the appellant and to construct buildings. It was agreed between the parties that the purchase price for the land was to be paid by installments. It was also agreed between the parties that in the event of certified termination of the agreement, clause 8.2 and 16.2 of the agreements will be paid. The respondent made the first payment of 12% of the purchase price of Rm918,000 as required under the agreements, and subsequent payments amounting in total to about 50% of the purchase price under both agreements, and then defaulted in its payments. The appellant claimed that the respondent was in breach of the agreement and that he forfeited all the monies paid to the appellant. The respondent commenced proceedings by originating summons and sought to be recovered all the money he had paid to the appellant. Even though the first payment made the respondent is not stated in any part of the agreement as forfeitable deposit, the court had went through the agreement and found that the intention of the parties of the first agreement was a true deposit. Hence, by virtue of Section 75 of Contract Act 1950, the deposit may be forfeited in the event of a default as it represents a genuine estimate of the damage suffered by the vendor.
For the next case, which is the Langsong Aluminium Industries Sdn Bhd versus KSEO Properties Sdn Bhd. For this case, the appellant was the owner of a piece of land that has an interest restriction, which means that the land cannot be sold or transferred without without the consent of the state of authority. Respondent was aware of the restoration, but he still offered to purchase the land, and the appellant agreed to it. The appellant paid an earnest deposit to the respondent paid an earnest deposit to appellant. So, while preparing the relevant document, which is the sale and purchase agreement and the prior consent of state authority, the appellant returned the deposit check without agreeing to the agreement. The respondent then succeeded the specific performance against the appellant at the high court. The application of the maxim can be seen in the second issue, which is whether the specific performance can be granted when the contract is subject to a condition precedent. Judge Zaliha decided to follow this decision of the Court of Foreign Properties in Berhad versus Blockhead Ho and others appeal. In Kersa Laksim versus Siti Menan, where the sole beneficiary sold the land registered under the name of his deceased mother, Judge Raza Azlan Shah stated in his judgment, in which the specific performance of the 1992 agreement as paid for by the plaintiff in the action is an equitable relief. The court will look at the substances rather than the form.
Besides, this equity also applied in this case. In the case of Street versus Mumford, the number 5 St. Clement Gardens building had been divided to flat lots. In 1983, Mr. Tweeds, by an agreement, granted Mrs. Mumford a license the right to occupy rooms and room 5 and room 6 of his property at number 5 St. Clement Gardens at Boscombe for a rent of £37 per week, subject to 14 days notice of termination. The terms of agreement included that Mr. Street can enter the rooms to inspect, to carry out the maintenance, or for any other reasonable purpose. Besides, only Mrs. Mumford can occupy or sleep in the room, and the children and pets also not allowed to enter the room. In the agreement also stated that the license was not intended to give a tenancy, and therefore there was no protection from the Rent Acts. There was issue that arose as Mr. Mumford that argued that the parties only intended to create license, not a lease, and she also stated the fact that the agreement was labelled as a license, so it should be treated as a license, not the other rights. On the other hand, Mr. Street argued that the most important were the rights created, not a merely form of agreement. In this case, although the appellant made the license agreement with the defendant, but the act of appellant restricted many things in the agreement showed that the agreement was not a license agreement but a lease agreement. The appellant also said the most important were the rights created, not a merely form of agreement. It clearly that appellant has intention to make a lease agreement with respondent, although he was already made a license agreement with her on the paper form.
Okay, we continue on the English case, on the case of Foskett against Metcalf. In breach of trust, Mr. Murphy took £20,440 from a company he controlled. Over 200 investors had invested in the company for the purpose of buying land. The land had been bought but not been developed as promises. Mr. Murphy used the trust money to pay off the 4th and 5th installment on his life insurance policy. He had already paid the first 3 premiums with his own money. Mr. Murphy committed suicide. His children, the defendant, were paid the £1 million under the insurance policy. Mr. Foskett and the other investors, the claimant, sued the defendant, claiming a 40% share in the policy's monies. The claimant argued that they had proprietary interest in the insurance monies. The insurance policy had been purchased using a proportion of misapplied trust fund. The defendant argued that only an equitable lien was available, and the beneficiary should only receive the amount taken. Court of Appeal held that the purchaser were entitled to the repayment of the amount of the 4th and 5th premium with interest, but were not entitled to a pro rata share of the policy proceeds. Where misuse of trust money were used to improve or maintain an asset, rather than a situation where a beneficiary's money were used to help purchase an asset. It was held that the purchaser had at most charge on the policy. The circumstances that the payment into the account of the purchaser money was made very shortly after the payment of the premium of the insurance, rather than before or at the time as the payment comes in, should be regarded as a factor to the purchaser equitable tracing claim. So in this case, the availability of equitable remedies ought to be depend upon the substances of the transaction in question and not upon the strict order in which a certain event happened.
Next, in the case Textainer Equipment Management versus Baltic Shipment Company, Textainer sued the Baltic Ship Company for failure to pay rent on containers it has leased from Textainer. Textainer then arrests one of Baltic's ships, applied to strike the portions of Textainer's claim and thereby set aside the warrant for arrest and dismiss the arrest of the ship on the grounds that pleadings disclose no reasonable cause of action. After all, equity imputes an obligation to fulfill an obligation. Baltic's obligation to pay rent, the arrears it has pleaded in its ship against the payment of rent and offered the plaintiff an enforceable, executable lien on its ship to be identified upon request. It is said that equity acts in personam and equity looks into intent rather than the form in any event. Thus, the intent of the parties of the mutual considerations upon which they deal is expressed in the leases. But Baltic comes into this court seeking relief, and it does not come with clean hands, for it is doubly in default for both to arrears of the rent and actual rent. In conclusion, the Court of Equity finds that by insisting on the form of the transaction at the same time, the substance will be defeated. And the intention of a person can be therefore be respected by allowing a trust to be created, although the word trust is not uttered and does not appear in any document. Thank you.